Hi church. Amanda and I miss you guys so much. It's been good to be able to connect with some of you online in our church services and through the week on the phone and internet and those things, but it's not the same, is it, as meeting in person. It's been quite an interesting journey, this coronavirus isolation. And I remember even just a few short weeks ago, we were at Easter time and we were singing that song, because he lives I can face tomorrow, because he lives all fear is gone, because I know who holds the future. And I've just been really amazed at how our church has entered into this period, the way that we've taken to online church, meeting our small groups through Zoom and other means. And just wanted to thank you guys for the way that you've been the church in this period where we couldn't come together and be in the church together. And now we find ourselves in an interesting position where the government have started to relax some of the regulations around groups meeting together, and we find ourselves on the pathway seemingly out of coronavirus. And we don't really know what's going to happen into the future. We don't know whether it's a straight line path out of this or whether we're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and we're just going to have to work that journey together. But on the spiritual leadership team, we've been having a number of conversations over the last few weeks about what that looks like for us as a church. We want to make sure that we're mindful and that we're abiding by the rules and regulations set for us by our government. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by the Spirit of God. And there's this fantastic little verse in Acts that we often remind each other and say that for the early church, they made decisions on the basis that it seemed good to them and to the Holy Spirit. And that's the way that we want to be moving forward. We know that God holds the future, and while we can come together in different numbers and different groups, and as the government relaxes guidelines, we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is right for the church, that is following the Spirit's leading into what's best for us, for our church, and for our communities. And so we've had a number of conversations about what that looks like. And today I want to just give you a brief update on what our plans are at this stage, knowing that things can change so quickly, but what our plans are at this stage for our church to return to whatever the new normal looks like. And I think it's fair to say that our world's never going to be the same. And our church is probably never going to be the same, and nor should it, because where we've gone isn't as good as where we're going to be. Because God has better in store for us, for our nation, for our world, for our community, if we only trust in Him and follow His leading. So today I want to just share with you a 2-stage plan for our church to come out of isolation. We know all about stages and plans through the government's 3-stage plan. Well, we're going to abide by those regulations, and we're going to stage our return back to church in 2 stages. Let's give you a bit of background on this. The current word from the Salvation Army nationally is that none of our church services nationwide are allowed to restart until the government's stage 3 of the COVID Safe Australia plan. That will be when the government finally says it's okay for groups up to 100 people to gather and worship together. I believe this is a good thing because not only is it respecting what the government is saying, but it's also respecting many of the people in our pews that are vulnerable, the elderly, the sick, those with pre-existing health conditions. And just because we can meet with that many people in a room doesn't necessarily mean that that's the most caring thing to do for the sick and those that are most at risk of getting coronavirus. So we want to make sure that we're very careful about how we do this. And whenever we do come back to meet, we'll be meeting with advanced policies and procedures in place for cleaning the place, for making sure that we abide by social distancing and all of those things. So with that in mind, our 2-stage plan will lag a little bit behind the government's 3-stage plan. Here's how we're going to do it. Stage 1 of the church's return to meeting together is going to happen in small groups. Now, this is probably no surprise to you because the church started in small groups. In the book of Acts, we read all about this. Churches would meet in homes, they'd meet together, they'd fellowship together, and it's always been a part of who we are. So it's no surprise to us that when we start back again, we're not going to start back with all of our programs and all of our ministries and everything that we do to keep ourselves busy. No, we're going to come back to the basics. And we're going to meet just like the church did in the book of Acts, and we're going to meet in small groups. So in the next week or 2, we'll come out with some more information about what that looks like. But just to let you know that it will mean that church will be meeting in groups of, say, up to 10 people in homes all across the valley. It won't be doing this on a Sunday. This will be during the week or at any time that suits the people that want to meet, whether it's in person, whether it's online, whether it's via the phone. However, the idea here is that our church continues to meet together, worship together, share together, support each other, pray together, meet each other's needs pastorally together, and that we can still be the church in small groups, even though we can't come into the church building all at the same time. The idea here is that we can sustain that for as long as we need, because that is church. With the exception of us coming and all being in the one place and singing together, there's really not a whole lot much else that we miss when we come and we meet in small groups. So we're going to make sure that we do that in a really healthy way. So more information will come out about stage 1 in the next little while, or you can actually read on the pamphlet that will be following this video with the information that's here next to me. Stage 2 is where we actually do start to come together on a Sunday. And that's going to look a little bit different. It's going to be some time since we can get everybody in the same room at the same time. When we all come to meet together, just before we started isolation, we had 110, 120, sometimes even 130 people in the room, and I can't see that happening again anytime soon. Even when the government says up to 100 people, that's still not our entire church. But what we can probably do in stage 2 of our church return to church plan is that we can host smaller gatherings. So what we'll do is we will start having church services on a Sunday in person again when we hit the government stage 3. And when that happens, we'll have 2 smaller gatherings on a Sunday. We'll make them identical. It'll be the exact same service, the exact same sermon, the exact same teaching. It'll be exactly the same, but we'll have one group coming in and then another group coming in a little later on. Now, obviously, that means you won't be able to see everybody in our church all on a Sunday. But that's not necessarily the worst thing, because seeing some people is better than seeing nobody, right? And even though you can't see them, we're still a part of the same church together. We're still always going to be one church. We just will have as many in the building as we're allowed to at that point in time. So once again, you'll be able to see more information about that coming up here beside me, or you can download the pamphlet that looks at stage 2. Our prayer with all of this is to make sure that we can come back to the basics of why we meet. It would be a mistake for us to come back and just jump straight into all of the things that we used to do without thinking about what's at the center. And the center of everything we do has to be about Jesus. So by coming back into small groups and then coming to worship together in smaller groups, and then one day, God willing, all being in the same place, singing together at the same time, would be an amazing achievement for our church and would be an amazing blessing for our community. But until then, let's continue to be people of prayer, praying for each other, praying for our community. Let's continue to be looking at the app. Let's continue to be watching on the Sunday and making sure that we can worship all together. That'd be fantastic. One of the incredible opportunities that's happened to us in this time is that we've connected with so many more people than we would ever have connected with when we were in a building on a Sunday. You know, most of our videos, when we look at streaming on YouTube and Vimeo and through the online church platform and then through the app, people looking at all of these areas during the week after the Sunday service, we're hitting about 300 to 400 people are watching every single service. Or should I say 300 to 400 devices, be it a phone or a computer or a tablet. There might be 2 or 3 people watching on each screen, we don't know. And what an incredible opportunity for us to be able to connect with more people who, some of you watching this right now, might never like to set foot into our church building. We want you to know that we love you and we care for you, and we'd like to know who you are. So if you're watching this and you've been touched in any way by our church services over this time, you're maybe a part of our community here in the Nambucca Valley, or maybe you're further afield than that, but you feel like you've connected with something that's happened online, reach out to us. We'd love to get to know you. You can do that in so many ways. You can either connect with us via Facebook, via Instagram, you can send us an email, you can download our church app and connect with us that way. But we just really want to get to know who you are. We want to be able to send you a gift to say that we care about you and we care about your spiritual journey. We want to support you in that. So come and be a part of our church, even if you're not in the church building with us. We want to be able to continue that ministry going, that even when our church comes and meets together online on in the building on a Sunday together, we're still going to continue to meet your needs online as well. So that's all for me for now. I'm sure you'll have more questions. We've got plenty of time to work through the details. And as I say, there'll be more information coming, particularly about stage 1, small groups, in the next week or so. But until then, we love you guys. Pray for you daily. Let's pray for each other and care for each other and be the church, even though we can't be in the church right now. Bless you guys. Bye.